Ruling could come down any time from a federal appeals court that could either block or pave the way for National Guard troops to deploy in Portland.
And Fox 12's investigative reporter Ezra Kaplan is here to break down this morning's emergency hearing with no decision from the judges quite yet.
The legal saga around the federalization and deployment of troops to Portland continued today, elevated to the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. You might remember that last weekend, a federal judge blocked the federal government from sending troops to Portland when she issued a temporary restraining order. Attorneys for the Trump administration quickly appealed that decision, and after this morning's hearing, both sides are left waiting for answers. At the core of today's hearing was a question of how much the president gets the benefit of the doubt when federalizing the National Guard under U.S. Code 12406.
The president's 12406 determinations are entitled to great deference, but that deference has a limit, and that limit is this case, where the president's determinations are untethered from reality.
But two of the three judges on the appellate panel seemed skeptical. Judges Ryan Nelson and Bridget Bade were each appointed by President Trump during his first administration and had tough questions for Stacey Chaffin, the attorney representing Portland and Oregon. Nelson said that Judge Karen Immergut of the U.S. District Court in Oregon got it wrong in her assessment of the situation at the ICE facility.
I'm just trying to figure out why we're giving district courts the ability to say, well, this is what I see on the outside, so therefore I'm going to transfer that onto what's going on behind the scenes. And we have declarations that say that it is impeding their ability to perform their function.
We have declarations that say we're short-staffed. We're having administrative difficulties because we don't have enough people. That is not a reason to bring the military into the streets of Portland or any other city in the United States. There needs to be something more than a deficit of employees to raise to the level of such a significant incursion into the sovereignty of a state.
Pressed by Judge Nelson about the reports of violence amid protests, Chafin pointed to prosecutions as evidence for the lack of emergency.
The situations that we're talking about, even the situations where it unfortunately could include an assault on a federal officer, that's a crime. That's a crime that was handled. They were arrested, and I understand that the U.S. Attorney's Office had 22, they're prosecuting 22 defendants. That's how this process is supposed to work.
But Eric MacArthur, the attorney for the federal government, presented a very different analysis of the protests outside the ICE facility.
This is hardly the peaceful and sedate crowd that plaintiffs tried to make it out to be. These are violent people, and if at any point we let down our guard, there is a serious risk of ongoing violence. And at some point, the president is entitled, when his subordinates are telling him, we are overstretched, this is unsustainable, the officers aren't available to do their jobs.
The hearing also spent time discussing whether what was happening in Portland can be considered a rebellion. MacArthur cited a June 7th memo from the Department of Defense, which read in part that the organized protesters constituted a, quote, form of rebellion against the authority of the U.S. government. Chafin disagreed.
That the defendant's proposed definition here is so broad that it could potentially encompass a significant amount of protected speech and protest activity. This court identified that both invasions and rebellions are unusual and extreme emergencies that threaten the normal operation of civil government.
After an hour and 15 minutes of arguments, the hearing came to a close, with MacArthur getting the last word.
The president is entitled to say enough is enough and bring in the National Guard to reinforce the regular forces. We'd ask the court to grant a stay pending appeal as swiftly as possible.
The justices took the case under advisement and will issue a ruling in the coming days. There are two temporary restraining orders currently blocking that troop deployment, but in today's appeal, they only focused on the one covering the Oregon National Guard, not the broader order issued last Sunday. It's still unclear how a ruling in this case might affect the other order. And just to be clear, these proceedings today only deal with the temporary restraining orders. The underlying lawsuit filed by Portland and the state of Oregon claiming the deployment itself is illegal, those won't be decided here. Reporting in studio, Ezra Kaplan, Fox 12 Oregon.
Ezra, thank you. Meanwhile, in